Well, hello there. Welcome to the Weekend Handyman. Today I'm working on my snowmobile. It is a Ski-Doo MXZ 670. It's a 1997 model. Not that necessarily matters, but today I got to replace the primer on it. The primer that's on it doesn't really work anymore. It'll suck gas, but it doesn't really. The one-way valve system doesn't really work anymore, so whatever gets sucked gets pushed back down. So I got to change that. Came out here to see what I was going to have to take apart, and I was hoping that it was easier to access, but unfortunately I'm going to have to remove this pad, and I got to remove this plastic cover right here to get at the primer, which is right there, which doesn't really do anything anymore. It sucks gas through this line all the way down here, which goes to the main fuel line, and then it's supposed to push it out here, but what it does, it'll just suck gas and it'll just get pushed back and forth like this. Doesn't really do anything. So, gonna go ahead and change that. Alright, first things first, there's a Torx bolt right here, or a screw rather. There's a Torx screw here and a Torx screw here. Those are gonna come off, and then this plastic thing I think should come back this way. Make it easier to get at the back side of this primer that's on here. Nice day in December here. It's not too cold. It's about mid-30s, so that's why I picked today to work on this. This one had a washer on it. I'll probably find a washer for the other side too, but oh well on that. There's also a Torx set right here that I didn't see before. This one's a pain in the ass though, because the handlebars are here. So, let's see if this works. Just fits. Alrighty then. So, I got you in nice and close so you can see what's about to be happening. Primer's right here, it goes to the plastic cover. The back side is all nice and up there. There is a big nut that gets threaded onto the primer shaft itself. All I have to do is grab some pliers to hold that side, and then undo this side, however which way you can, and it'll come right out. The only other thing is you gotta remove the fuel lines, which those are probably gonna be a pain in the ass because they're probably old as the sled is. So that's an annoyance for the next step. So I got the primer out. It was actually only finger tight. Once I got there and actually start to loosen it, which is probably just years of vibrating apart and stuff like that. Now, this is a new primer that I've got. Nice, new, shiny, whatever. It actually says made in the USA on there, but who knows what that actually means. The kit that I bought did come with new fuel line, but it's this cheap blue fuel line, which I don't really have good experience with it. It sort of tends to dry out and crack really easily. So, there's not anything really wrong with this old fuel line, except the fact that it's old, and the end was a little messed up. So what I'm going to do is, I just clipped it off, and I'm going to hopefully be able to get that on there and create a new seal on it. But honestly, with that blue fuel line, I'm better off sticking with this old fuel line. Disagree with me all you want, but that's what I'm going to do. So I was just rudely interrupted by a dead battery, but what I was going to show you was the primer. It's pretty basic. The bent side is where the gas gets sucked in and it gets pushed out the straight side right here. But basically there's a little nut they undo, and there's this little lock washer that gets put on the inside of that plastic cover. So you feed it in this way, put the lock washer in on the bottom, and then tighten down the screw, and then you just put your fuel lines, here and there, in, out. Hopefully you'll be able to see a little bit what I'm doing without being blocked too much. Little tip, you've probably seen this before, but if you got a stubborn fuel line, especially today, like it's kind of a little bit chilly, not too bad, but the fuel lines get a little stubborn. So what you can do is just take a screwdriver and open this up a little bit. You don't want to do it too much, because you either break the line or stretch it out to the point where there's not a seal on it, which is what you don't want. But I got the primer in, I'm just trying to get the fuel lines back on. I got one on there. This one's just being a little bit stubborn. There it goes. The little extra room with that screwdriver is all I needed. So, she's all sitting there. This plastic cover isn't on there though, and I don't have the padding up here though. But before I put that back together, I'm gonna test it to make sure that it does work properly. But basically, the idea of the primer is, of course, it sucks fuel up in this line, pushes it down into the carburetors over there, so that it gives them a nice shot of fuel so it starts. A lot of snowmobiles will have a choke, which doesn't really do the same thing. What it does, it just allows more fuel to go into the carburetors to make it easier to start that way. A primer just shoots the fuel in manually, which is better. Personally, I prefer the primer, but that's just me. Alright, let's see how well it starts. The only time it's been started so far this year was last week when I took it out of being summarized. Made sure everything worked, and of course I noticed that the primer was getting really bad, so that's why I decided to change it. But I have not started it today yet. So, let's see how well it starts. I've got the key in, the kill switch is off. Let's see what happens. Fuel's open too. That's a good thing to know. Once the fuel, basically what happened there is the fuel had to get sucked up through the main line, go all the way down this main line and up through this one, which took about 4 or 5 pulls to do that, and now the fuel's up in the primer and getting shot into the carburetors. The other one, the old primer, the fuel would just get here and just get pushed back and forth. So that's 3 full shots of fuel into the carburetors. So that's that. It works perfectly. Now, as you could see, that's one of the reasons why I preferred the primer to the choke, is you could obviously squirt fuel directly into the carburetors, and once you do that, you get it started, which took, I don't know what, 2 or 3 pulls. If it died when it used up the fuel that the primers shot into there, you could just give another quick shot while the fuel is making it through the main fuel line and filling up the bowls and stuff. So you can keep it running instead of having to keep restarting it. But that's that. The only thing left to do, of course, is to put back the dashboard, I guess is what you'd call it, sort of. There's that little plastic thing that goes around the base of the handlebars and the padding. But other than that, job's done. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, subscribe, click the like button, leave some comments, argue about whatever you want to argue about. And next thing in the snow, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out the brakes. They're not really working correctly. See you then.